Hello, today I'm going to go ahead and show you how to use the Game Data Editor plugin with Playmaker support. So we're going to use Playmaker to do all the heavy lifting as far as getting our data out of the JSON file and into the scene. So in our example scene here, this is our RPG example scene, I went ahead and added a new GUI text here. It's in red, intelligence, and we went ahead and added that piece of data into our JSON file with the game data editor. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and add a new state machine. This is how to use Playmaker. It deals with these FSMs, which are state machines, functional state machines. So I'll go ahead and choose the intelligence component over here on my hierarchy, and I'll right click to add an FSM. So that gives me this Playmaker script over here, as you can see in the inspector, and it gives me my first state. So in order to use the game data editor, the first thing you need to do is go ahead and initialize it with your JSON file, which is in your resources. So the way to do that with this is we're going to go ahead and add an action to our state, the action browser right over here. We'll clear out the search text, and you'll notice now there's a tab for game data editor here, this section, and so these are all the actions you can do related to the game data editor. So the first one we'll do is game data editor manager init, and we'll go ahead and add the action to the state. So now it's asking for the GDE data file name, and in our case that's RPG Playmaker data, and that's the file that's in your resources. So now that it's initialized with the data, the next thing you can do is go ahead and pull that intelligence data out. But first I'll go ahead and name this state so I know what's going on at a glance. So I'll just call it GDE init. That's all I'll do with my first state. So I'll go ahead and add a transition, which goes ahead and adds a finish transition. So that allows me to get to another state. Once that state hits finished, you can go ahead and drag a little arrow to another state. So we'll go ahead and add a new state. Right click, add state. So the first thing I'll do in this state is go ahead to the action browser again. We'll do a GDE get int. And so we're going to pull out the intelligence data. We're going to go ahead and store that result in a variable, which is over on this tab. And we're going to need a new variable. I'll call it intelligence. Oops. I'll name the type int, and there we go. So for this get int, we'll go ahead and choose this icon on the right side, which allows you to choose variables. So then there it shows up under there. Now item name and field name are the names in the create data tab that we specified. So in our case it's warrior and intelligence. And you can find out that information if you go to window, game data editor, create data, and you'll see our character was named warrior, and the actual piece of data that we need is called intelligence. So we'll cancel out of that. So there we go. So now we're going to pull that integer out of there, and the next thing we do is, so there's a couple ways you can do it with Playmaker. You can either go ahead and add more actions to this particular state, or you can add more states in here in this panel, and then you can link them all together with these finished transitions. Right now I'll just go ahead and add them as more actions on this one state. So I'll go to the action browser, and we have to do two things with this. Now we have an integer, so we're going to have to do a format string to make it into a string. And then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to do a set GUI text to actually set that in the scene. So we're going to reorder these. You can drag and drop to reorder it. And so it'll do a getInt. The next thing we'll do is the format string. We'll do some curly braces with the 0 as our first placeholder. And we'll put some text here. I think that's capitalized in the scene. Okay, so the variable that it is, there's going to be one variable, which is a type int. The actual variable is intelligence. And we're going to store the result. We have no other variables to use. So let's store the result in a new variable. We'll make it intelligence format. It'll be a string. And so there it is. Now we can use it in the state. So now with the format string, the store result here, we'll choose intelligence format. And it'll go ahead and store that in there. It'll store this string in this variable. So the next thing we're going to do is set GUI text. We'll choose use owner because we're adding this state machine to the actual GUI text. Otherwise, you can use specify game objects and you can simply drag and drop it over there. So the text is going to be a variable, so you have to click this icon on the right, and it's going to pull the text from intelligence format, the string we formatted in the previous action. So I'll go ahead and name my state so that I know what it's doing at a glance. So in this case, it's getting and setting intelligence, and we'll leave it at that. So I need to drag this over. Now I need to hook these two up. So I go ahead and I click on the finished transition right here, and you can go ahead and drag and drop an arrow right to the next state. So there we go. That's pretty much all of it in a nutshell. We initialize, we get the integer, we format it into a string, and we set the GUI text. So if I did everything right, this should play and we should see our data. So we'll go ahead and press play. My machine's pretty weak, so it's going to crank a little bit. And there we are. So the Playmaker script here, this has an option called show state label, and that is this white text here, getting and setting intelligence. So you can show the state label and figure out which states you're in your scene when you're running. So I'll just unclick that to unshow it, and you can see it pulled out our data, 150, which is what we set the intelligence to, and it formatted our string correctly and it showed it in the scene. So there you go. That's how to use the game data editor with Playmaker. Thanks.